Here are some of the basic materials you're going to need to make this spear. I've got a 120cm piece of slingshot rubber here, two very cheap knives. These cost about $3 each. They're very sharp, and the only part of this knife you're going to need is the blade. You're also going to need a tent peg and a thick wooden dowel. You can use a broomstick handle, or you can go to the hardware store and buy one of these dowels. You're going to need to cut your broomstick handle down to 120 centimeters. Now cut your tent peg at 20 centimeters long. You can use bolt cutters or a hacksaw for this. Okay, so now you're just going to need to take a drill bit slightly larger than your tent peg and drill a hole directly down the middle of your wooden dowel. Okay, so now we're just going to mix up some 2-part epoxy, as you can see. Alright, and now we're just going to cover one end of our tent peg in the epoxy, and we're just going to stick it in the hole that we drilled in our wooden dowel. Okay, so now we're just going to take our two knives, and we're actually going to cut the blade off of the handle, because we don't actually need the handle, all we need is the blade for this. You can use a hacksaw and try and cut it off with that, but I found it very hard, and I actually think it's easier just to clamp the knife in your vise, and because the steel is very brittle but very hard, you can whack it with a hammer and it will actually snap straight off. And there's the knife blade in the vise, and it was a pretty clean cut. Okay, so now you're going to need to take a handsaw and make a small cut straight at the end of your wooden dowel where the metal tent peg is. It is possible to do with a handsaw, but I found it very hard, so it's easier just to go ahead and do it with a mini table saw if you have one. But if you don't, you can probably get away with just doing it with a handsaw. But as I said, it's very hard and you need to do very small strokes. Okay, so now you're just going to need to go ahead and mix up some more epoxy. And as you can see, I'm just going to glue 2 of these knife blades in each cut that we made with the handsaw. Alright, so as you can see, what you want to do is just get a stick with lots of epoxy on it and push it in all the gaps. You really want to fill it up and make sure there's no air bubbles in there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is take one of these hose clamps, put it on, tighten it up really nice and tight, and that's just going to help support all the holes that we've drilled, just to make sure it doesn't all crack out or anything. Okay, so now we're just going to need to find the balance point of our spear. Once you've found it, you need to take about 1 hand length back and then put 2 marks. Okay, so now we're going to be wrapping the whole spear in electrical tape, and that's not going to be including the handle part where we marked the lines. Okay, so now we're going to use a file to sharpen up the tip of our spear. If you have a sanding belt, that'll be much faster and you should use that. Okay, so now we're going to take that piece of slingshot elastic, fold it in half, then fold it in half again. Now you're just going to need to wrap that around the end of your spear. You can use elastic bands for this, hose clamps, whatever you have that's going to be really tight. Okay guys, so our spear Trident is now complete, and I think it looks pretty good. If you've gotten up to this point, then excellent job. You've got an awesome spear, and there's a couple of different ways of throwing it. You can throw it without the elastic, and that's going to be pretty powerful and strong anyways. Or what you can do is actually hook the elastic around your thumb, as I'm showing now, and then grab the handle once it's hooked around your thumb, just like this. Pull it back and then throw it. And as you throw it, the elastic will pull and shoot the spear out of your hand as you throw. And you're going to get about 3 times the power by doing that. So guys, let's see how much power you really do get when you hook the elastic around your hand and grab the spear like that and then throw it. Heaps.